Welcome back. A container of viruses mutated and cryogenically frozen is brought under heavy guard to Spire, a remote research station in Antarctica. Within days, people are dying of diseases that haven't been seen since the Middle Ages. Surgeon and virologist Dr. Caroline Birchall struggles to contain the outbreak as a vicious polar storm lashes the base. Now, to talk to us about this book, we are joined in studio by the author, Fiona Snyckers. Very good morning to you, Fiona.
Good morning.
It sounds like a cracking book to read. Give us a quick overview. How do you see this book?
Well, I see it as a thriller. People tell me that when they start reading it, they can't put it down. I've heard people say that they've stayed up right through the night to finish it. So I think page-turner is the best way to describe it. And yeah, it's a sort of isolation novel about somebody who's stuck in the most isolated place on Earth. No help is coming. She's completely on her own, and she's got to deal with some very challenging situations.
Dr. Caroline Birchall, that's the person you're talking about. She's a very modern woman, very strong woman. And is this a theme that runs throughout the book?
It is, yes. I don't think it would be wrong to call it a feminist novel, although that's not the primary identity of it. But she certainly is a very strong main character, and she has some very challenging things to deal with. And she's also very resourceful. Just when you think that she's completely out of options, she'll surprise you by doing something unexpected. There's a lot of technological and technology elements in the writing, the use of things that we use day to day, things like Skype and other technological advances. Are you very much influenced by current trends when you write? Yes, especially social media and the digital age. It's something that interests me particularly. My previous book, Now Following You, was about social media and its effect on people's lives. So yes, the digital age does influence me a lot. Now, your other books normally been based here in South Africa and dealt very much with South African content. This one steps out of that realm a little bit. Is that a metaphor for where you are as a person and where you're heading? No, not at all. I'm very much South African born and bred and staying here hopefully until I die. But I was just fascinated by the South Pole setting. My main character is a South African, and another character in the novel is also a South African. But I was interested in that extremely isolated South Pole setting. It's quite extreme, it's quite fascinating, and it certainly drew me in, and I hope it will draw the readers in as well. In this book, within days, people are dying of diseases we haven't seen in hundreds of years, really. That's the kind of shock that maybe brings that time back to us. Was that kind of part of the purpose to kind of show us where we've been and where we come from? Yeah, I've always been interested in this idea that viruses are being kept alive deliberately all over the world so that scientists can study them and create vaccines out of them. And I always kind of hope that those are being kept under lock and key somewhere and kept very safe. And this novel is a kind of what if. What if those viruses got loose? What would we do then? That's very interesting. I'm very interested in that kind of stuff as well, because I always think there's a conspiracy just around the corner. But let's talk about your book, the way you released it. You released it very much bit by bit on social media initially. Tell us about that and what inspired you to do that? Well, I just relaunched my author website, and I was hoping to attract traffic to it. And I had this novel bubbling away in my brain, and I thought, wouldn't it be an idea to release it chapter by chapter, day by day, to draw readers into my website? Well, that's what I hoped would happen. And when I first released it, I started off maybe with 5 readers on the first day, and by the time I released the last chapter, there were over 1,000 people reading it, and I had an offer from a publisher for a book deal. So it certainly worked for me. I'm very happy that I did it that way. And yeah, I think it's great that social media allowed me to do that. You're a journalist, now an author. How does being a journalist, how does it help you in doing this? It's almost like it's a little bit at polar ends writing this kind of fiction, isn't it? Well, I think as a journalist, you hopefully learn to check your facts, to make sure that what you're saying is accurate and well researched. And for this kind of novel, which is very heavy on facts and details, it's important to fact check properly and make sure that everything you're saying is correct, which hopefully it is.
What's next for Fiona Snyckers?
I've got a couple of books in the pipeline. The next one to be released will most likely be the fourth in my Trinity series of young adult novels, released by Majaji Books.
Well, Fiona, fantastic. Great to have you with us in studio. That's the book. It's called Spire.